If seeing posters of breastfeeding mothers makes the site more acceptable, just imagine what a 4-story tall mural of a breastfeeding mermaid can do. My guest today is Catriona MacLean, who is an infant feeding coordinator from Inverclyde, Scotland, and she will be able to tell us all about it. We will talk about why they decided on a mural, why they chose a mermaid to be the ambassador for breastfeeding, and all the positive impact it has on normalizing breastfeeding in Inverclyde. The mural was painted by the amazing artist Sam Bates, aka Smug. He is an Australian-born artist living in Scotland who is famous for his photorealistic murals. The mermaid mural is actually based on photographs of a local breastfeeding mom and her baby. You can check out Sam's artwork through the link below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, press the bell for notifications, and now enjoy the talk. Okay, I'm here today with Catriona MacLean. Catriona, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about the mermaid. There is this mural of a mermaid, breastfeeding mermaid, up on the wall in Inverclyde in Scotland that covers the entire side of a 3-story building, I think it's that tall.
4.5 stories.
Mm-hmm. 4.5-story tall building. My first question was, how did you come to this idea? What made you think we should have a mural to promote breastfeeding and not something else?
So the breastfeeding rates in Inverclyde are some of the lowest in the world. You know, we've got about 40% start breastfeeding in about 6 weeks. The rate has dropped to about 19%, so they're really low. And we know all the health benefits of breastfeeding already, the immunology, all the powerful stuff that's coming out now, less leukemia for babies, chest infections, ear infections, urinary infections, diabetes. And for mums, there's lower risk of breast cancer and ovarian cancer. So we know it's a really important topic. And we've tried posters before, campaigns, but we really, really needed the wow factor, because we were still getting mums coming to us as infant feeding advisors saying they didn't feel comfortable feeding in public. And when we've done lots of work with schools, primary and secondary, a lot of pupils have never seen anybody breastfeeding, in particularly certain areas within Inverclyde, Greenock being one of those areas. So we'd also seen the murals throughout the world. So we thought the idea could really work. The whole concept of finding that one building was the difficult part. It had to be somewhere where students would pass, where buses would pass, the side of a building with no windows. And so it took about 6 months to find the ideal building. And we'd seen Sam as the artist, so Smug1 on Instagram. And we had a good look at a lot of his work before. We knew his audience, he's world famous. And in initial discussions with Sam, he loved the idea. He's Australian, breastfeeding is the norm in his neck of the woods, if you like. We know the impact of a lot of his other murals. Mm-hmm. When I'm talking to teenagers, particularly the ones in Glasgow, mm-hmm. they'll say his artwork comes up on Instagram constantly. So we knew it would have this powerful sort of effect, if you like.
Mm-hmm. So the mural itself, the fact that it is a mural is already a big effect. And then yes. You told me in a previous discussion that you had 2 ideas, that it's either going to be a Celtic warrior mm-hmm. or it's going to be the mermaid. So I was just wondering why these 2 characters in particular, what do these 2 figures represented that you felt like it would make a good choice to promote breastfeeding?
Yeah, that's a great question. Inverclyde itself, if anybody knows it or doesn't know it, I'll tell them. It lies, most of the cities, most of the towns and the villages, of Inverclyde lie along the River Clyde. So for years or centuries, Inverclyde's dealt with trade and more recently tourism and shipbuilding. So the sea has brought lots of money and lots of opportunities to the area. And that's why it had to be an image that was the sea related to something. Mm-hmm. And looking at Sam's other work, he has done Celtic warriors. So we had a wee look at Clotta, who is the goddess of the River Clyde.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't much written about her. So we took these two images, the ideas or the concepts, to the residents of Inverclyde and school pupils and young pupils at the college, the local college,
Mm-hmm.
to ask what they thought. And most of them chose the mermaid.
Yes, definitely. It's a very impressive, beautiful image.
And to appeal to the younger population, if we had a Celtic goddess, it's maybe not going to, reach young women.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, mermaids have a very mystical vibe around them, but also somehow, I'm pretty sure every girl in their life at one point wanted to be a mermaid.
Of course, and I was going to say that. And there's still older ladies.
Yeah, so what I really like about it, that you used a fictional character. I think that was an important decision that you made. It's not going to be, and you mentioned this before, because Sam already had a mural with a breastfeeding lady. I think it's in Glasgow. But you were very definite about, we're going to go with a mythical creature, not an ordinary person. And I just wondered, you were kind of saying why, but like, what was it that was really important in there?
When we've talked to a lot of people and a lot of passers-by as the mural's getting done, and little 3-year-olds are dragging their mums over to the mural and talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they wouldn't do that. Well, they might, but then maybe the mum or the dad or the aunt or the carer might not stop and talk about it quite so long, because it is so beautiful and it's a piece of art that's going to get talked about. It's not, oh, it's a woman feeding, take the kid away. It's like, oh, let's see and look at it. Look at her nails. Look at the scales. It's created a lot of discussion. It's
a very gentle way. It's a safe way to get people get used to the sight of breastfeeding, because all you do is appreciating an art. You're really allowed to look at it because what you're looking at is a piece of art, and it makes you so much easier to relate to, easier to get accustomed to the sight of it through a beautiful painting.
And when you say that, of course, I just wanted to add in, popular shop, which is even more popular at this time of the year, which I can't name, of the car park where it is, they were saying to me, it is non-stop, the amount of artists sitting in the car park painting it, the photographers taking pictures. We've seen it on a million art forums. It has really got a lot of people speaking about it and taking images of themselves in front of it.
I have seen on Facebook a drone video, a video made with a drone, and it just really gives an idea of the size of it, the scale of that mural, as you see it like almost taking over the city, like a city becomes the background to this mural. So it's absolutely fascinating. And just to get back on the idea of the mythical character, what I really like about it as well, that it takes out breastfeeding from our ordinary life and gives it this kind of supernatural vibe. It associates breastfeeding with something that is supernatural almost. And I think breastfeeding and breast milk itself, although it's absolutely natural, it is literally supernatural. It's like a superfood for infants. So I really like how it's able to elevate breastfeeding to a way higher level.
Yeah. That's a fantastic way of looking at it, actually. Yeah.
The more I look at it, the more I find it amazing. When I first saw this image, I didn't even realize it was a mermaid.
Uh-huh.
The first thing that caught my eye after I saw, oh, it's a beautiful painting of a mother breastfeeding, but I was like, what's up with her nails? Why is the nail so long? And that's when I looked at the other details and realized that, oh, it's a mermaid.
And on that note, I was going to come to it later on. Yeah, talking to the students, so it was used, the image was used not long ago in Caledonia University in Glasgow to debate the topic with a cohort of student nurses. And they were saying, although some folk have complained about the nails, they were saying the nails made them think, and the actual bare naked image of the breast made them think it was a very empowering piece of art, and it meant that the mum's not hiding away, not caring for herself. Here she is, beautiful, breastfeeding proudly. Older people might not be seeing it that way. They're worried the baby's going to get scratched.
If I remember correctly, you mentioned that showing the breast itself was a very important part for the mural. Why do you think that was an important aspect?
Just what I was sort of alluding to there, what the student nurses had brought up. And also most of the mums, about 80% of mums that we see in the infant feeding team or at the breastfeeding clinics, they're embarrassed feeding outside. They don't want to. They feel they've got to cover up. They've never seen anybody breastfeeding. And if you think back to the stats, 19% breastfeeding. And when we look at those stats, the majority are at the high end of Inverclyde and the other end, they're not in the middle. So it's a way of seeing true breastfeeding, if you like, even though it is a mermaid. So we could have gone full on and had the other nipple dripping, but we thought we'll go easy. And so it's a way of put it out there and get lots of opinions about what they think of it. If we've had before, I've had totem poles up with a baby on an actual breast, an image in the front of the health centre here, and folk walk by it, they don't talk about it. Whereas with the mermaid and the breast, nobody can get offended at a breastfeeding mermaid because they don't wear tops anyway.
Exactly. Who are we to judge a mermaid for what she's doing?
A top would get wet in the ocean.
Very good. I read in an article that breastfeeding rates increased 5% in the last 5 years in Inverclyde. How important do you think the mural was to achieve this increase?
I think with rates, I know anybody that works with statistics know they come like a year behind. So it's early, very early days to see if the murals actually affected the breastfeeding rates. But what we do know is we're seeing a lot more mums wanting to come along to the breastfeeding group. They've seen the mural, they talk about the mural and how it's made them feel a wee bit more confident and brave, and they want to meet other mums and pick up their skills and confidence with feeding in public.
Mm-hmm.
We've had feedback generally in a survey we put out, 214 respondents got back to us, and that went really widespread. These are families in Inverclyde. I mean, the mums, so the mums, as far as we've got with the mums, is the mums that are coming to the breastfeeding group saying that they love it and it's made them more confident and wanting to come for more support for feeding in public.
Yeah, so you have a little bit of feedback from the community itself. Is that what you were just saying, or there's more?
Oh, no, it was the feedback from mums, yeah. So we've had thousands of feedback from lots of different sources. You only have to go and look at his Instagram page for a start. You know, just don't even need to look elsewhere. The amount of comments from mums. Locally, we just have from the mums from the breastfeeding group just now, and mums that we work with. The midwives at the hospital tell us, all the visiting doctors that come to see the pregnant ladies all talk about the mural because they have to go off the train station and they pass it on the bus. So it's certainly sparked a lot of conversation, you know, where you go in Inverclyde, mums, residents, everyone's talking about it. And camera clubs, art clubs, primary schools. When we're keeping an eye on primary school Facebook pages, you know, they've got images of the mural up and they're asking pupils like primary 4 to make their own mural and out of like stickle bricks or whatever, and then they have to do their own image. But they've got this image up as an example. So it's really getting there into the community.
That is beautiful, yeah. And in many different ways is able to spill into the community life. It's amazing. So the other aim was to have normalized breastfeeding. Do you think it increased acceptance for breastfeeding in the community?
I think, again, it's early days, but what mums are telling us is that it has. And older residents in the community that might have hated breastfeeding, to begin with, when you're talking to them.
Yeah.
You revisit and you discuss, what do you think of the mural? And you get lots of positive comments about it.
That's very
So
good.
I think it is early days. But when we put out our survey recently to the whole community, we got 214 responders back, which is okay. It was only out for a week. 88% of them stated that the mural normalised breastfeeding, and 70% stated that made them feel positive about breastfeeding. So that's fantastic. And so we've repeated this out to the school pupils because we didn't get many under 21 replying. So we'll see what difference that is.
Did you hear back anything that wasn't positive, apart from the fact that some people are worried for the baby because of the sharp nail? But
yeah, that was my main thing I was going to say. Yeah, to be fair, we have had some negative comments, but not about the actual artwork. It's more to do with how upset some people were because breastfeeding didn't work for them. And we're talking about some people who had their baby maybe 50 years ago talking about it, and they still hold that pain. And so it's very real, and it's a very real problem, which we are taking note of and working with the health visitors in the area to talk about it and maybe debrief mums, or maybe us debriefing the community while we're out and about.
And it kind of really comes to show how important breastfeeding is for moms. If somebody after 50 years still feels so strongly about it.
Of course. And the other comments, as I say, about the nails, what we're saying to people are, the mermaid needs her nails to open clams and scratch on the seabed to get food for her baby once the baby's weaning. But that came from another mum in the community, actually. That's not my quote. But we'll see. I mean, it's not stopped. The comments keep coming. You can see by the amount and the depth of the comments on Sam's site particularly. It's not just well done.
I guess this is the one that sparked the most conversation and an ongoing conversation because it's such a big statement as well. Yeah. It's not just art.
One of the comments on his site that's really stuck with me was to do with, I wouldn't quote it as a quote, it was to do with a mum was sitting up at night feeding, thinking, is this worth it? And we know breastfeeding can be really tiring and hard work at the beginning, to get it right. And then that photograph popped up on her media, and she thought, wow, yeah, it is worth it. And it was just that boost she needed in the middle of the night to keep going, so that's fab.
There you go. How did the younger generation respond to the mural? What is their impression of breastfeeding?
So, as I say, when Sam was painting it, lots of young children were coming by, dragging their mums over. We were asking people in the street, and all of them walking by it from the car park were looking up and pointing to it. So that was fun to watch. And the young people walking towards the college all had a comment on it as they walked by. So that was great. But I went to a summer group up in a part of Greenock where traditionally nobody breastfeeds. And it was a group of 6 to 12-year-olds that were in at it. And so I sat down and showed them an image of the mermaid and said, has anybody seen this? And all of them could tell me they'd seen it. And then the comments that were coming out of them were I was so surprised and shocked, that every one of them was positive, and they were talking about it being inspirational. A 10-year-old saying that it was going to change culture, and you're thinking, wow. So I'm really excited to be, in the new year, to be going into the schools and sort of getting some more comments to see what age this is actually really targeting,
Yes, I would be very curious to hear that as well. One of the purpose for this chat is it would be great to know if there's any other organizations, public health organizations who would like to do something similar. What would be the steps to take? What were the steps for you to take to get this off the ground?
The first step was applying for funding, and the funding came from the Programme for Government Breastfeeding. So that's a Scottish fund from the Scottish Government. And the next stage, I approached Glasgow itself, has a lot of murals around the city, and they have a team that deal with the murals. So artists can apply to use buildings and apply for a fund. We didn't have such funds in Inverclyde, so we had to apply for funding. So the team there were absolutely fantastic in helping me understand, like, getting the correct building and getting permission to put it on the building. So luckily, this building belonged to a housing association. It could have been private tenants, and then I would have had to get every tenant to agree to have a breastfeeding mural on the side of their building. So as it was, the Oak Tree Housing partnered with me, and they wrote to all the residents. Some of the flats were empty at the time, so that was quite good. So there's less residents to write to, asking for permission. And the next thing, well, before that, sorry, we had to look at the footfall. It'd be no good having a building outside of Inverclyde where nobody's going to go by, or people are going to go by it in cars. It had to be somewhere where people would walk by on a daily basis. And then it also had to be in the area where nobody, where the rates of breastfeeding are the lowest. And we're talking about less than 3%. So we got the permission for the house. I had, it also took me a while to get Sam. So once we had the funding and the building in place, then it was just organising the artists.
Mm-hmm. Catriona, thank you so much for your time. It's such an amazing thing. I loved hearing more from it.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioning a giant mural is a feasible project for most public health organizations. I hope they take note of the enormous positive impact it has on normalizing breastfeeding compared to more traditional promotional materials like posters. I also hope they take note of the clever use of art and the clever use of including a mythical creature that offers a way for the wider community to connect with the whole idea from the safety of admiring an art piece. If anyone is working closely with a public health organization, please bring this to their attention, and maybe we will see a few more of these popping up. Next week, we will sit down with an organization called Eats on Feet, which is a breast milk sharing platform. Not only that, but they have established the fundamental guidelines for safe breast milk sharing. Hope to see you next Monday.